Fantastic. So, welcome to Module 5's project, where we're going to take everything that we've built inside of Modules 3 and 4, and we're going to leverage all of it. And the main way that we're doing that is that you guys have created a cloud, and you've leveraged the Amazon Web Services to do that, and you've loaded the data inside of the cloud, and then you've moved it into a database that you've custom constructed to receive the data. And now the hard work is finished, and we're going to redo the analytic work for Module 3, but we're going to do it inside of the database to give you a kind of thorough idea of how these systems work, what they're good for, um, and just how powerful the structured query language is. So let's jump in. Now, I assume you've got a couple of things open already. One is Amazon, aws.amazon.com. So I've got that open here, and I'm about to get into I'm sorry, about to get into Cloud9. And you'll get into the same Cloud9 environment that you built for Module 4. And then I also hope that you have the Google Doc open from your Canvas. So that document should be available for you from Module 5. So if you have those two open, you're ready to go. And you'll see why in a moment. I'm going to skip down. I'm going to have you read this document independently so that you get understanding of the high-level concepts. And I want to jump into the database. So let's go ahead and let's go ahead and open up your Cloud9. What's great about Cloud9 is it gets you a command line access to a Linux server in addition to an environment where you can build applications and systems. So I'll go ahead and get back with you when this is live and running. Fantastic. So I'm going to boost the visibility of this page just a little bit so that you can see everything that's going on. And just to give you a quick refresher, our environment here is Linux. You can type in history and you can see that there's quite a few commands that we're going to use. The primary command that you're going to get to, and I'm going to get to this command so I can log into the database. And the way to do it is to use the up arrow in your keyboard. Password is probably simple, S-I-M-P-L-E. And one thing I always do is I go ahead and query the system so I get a sense of where I am, and use of P2 is going to be required. Now, it's probably taken you an hour or two to get to this point where you have the database as it stands. Got it installed and up and running and all imported and everything, and that's no small feat. But now that you are, let's go ahead and redo the steps that we took in our Module 3 lab. And I think you'll find that it's incredibly efficient once we do that. Now, you can see I'm choosing all the records that are male. And if I scale back a bit, you can see just the scope to which you have access to that. It's quite a bit of records. And I'm trying each of these commands. They work. It's select everything from P2, where gender is like female, representing all the female records where their gender is like female. And so you can see that you have the ability to segregate the records so that you can have an all female cast, and then you can have an all male cast. So here's all the male records. So this is very similar to the steps that we took at the very beginning when we were binning the female and male records. So I'm just going to scroll down to the bottom, and then so we're demonstrating that we can grab all the records and then separate them based upon gender or affinity. Now I want to try to say, well, let's go ahead and select folks who have not been fired. And so I copied that in, and then these are folks who have not left the company yet, and so that will work just fine. Where select to termination date from P2, where the termination date resembles this. And then I want to be able to create a table where we can select all the mail records. So let's back this up a little bit. And I find that when I copy this from the back of the line, it gives me a chance to just let it pause on the command line for a moment. So I want to create a fresh table. It's called mails, and it's going to take all the records that have a male gender to it. Oh, I already have it, so that's fine. I've already done this before, but I can say show table males and show table. Actually, let's go ahead and go describe. And you can see that when we do that command, your command is going to work immediately because you don't have a table called males yet. I had just done this with some students, but you can see the structure of this table is exactly the same as the table that you built last week. And you can, if you want to say select everything from males, you can see that just about everybody in the table is male. And then we can do the inverse. We can do the same thing where we can create a table. But if there are any issues with importing it, we're going to create a table called males, and you can ignore any select clauses, any issues with importing it. And that's based on the fact that when we select, we have some issues with the termination date. And so it'll be hard to create that immediately. I've already resolved this error, but when you can go ahead and go create table males, you can redo it except say ignore. And so that will create the males table flawlessly, because if there are any issues with creating it, it'll overlook those issues. And so let's go ahead and create a females table, but go ahead and ignore any warnings. Now I already have the females table, but you're going to find that that will work very immediately, which is satisfying. So let's go, and we can select everything from females. That's fine. We can also describe females. And this, I really appreciate this a great deal. Having this command, I use it a great deal because it exposes the names of each of the columns and the data types. And just to review, these are the exact same columns that we had in your spreadsheet when we did work with the MelCorp. We have this very fast access to that data. So as you've seen, you can select everything for females. That selects all the data from all the columns. Same thing for males, so you can describe them. So got those commands here. This document's very valuable. So let's use the order by clause to select critical details related to people and their occupation. And this resembles the work that we did using the pivot table. If you remember, we were selecting everybody by occupation, and then we're specifying their salary, and here we're selecting kind of everything related to them in the males table. And so we're exposing, just as a sample, we're exposing what salaries belong to each of the positions that people have, just as a way to kind of explore the data. And so, for example, if we wanted to explore how much the warehouse associate was making, we would do something like this. Now, it just so happens that we don't have any warehouse associates in the males table. So what if we were to put that in, but instead, what if we were to specify a supervisor instead? We have two instances where supervisors occurred within the male table, and these are the salaries and other statistics. So we're kind of shedding a light on how relational databases work. Now, what if we wanted to select the average salary that belongs to everybody who has a particular occupation? That's particularly valuable to our work as analysts. So what if we were to take the supervisor position and to say, well, there are several supervisors, but what about the average salary that's possessed here? And let's make sure we're just doing the average salary for males, where occupation is like, and why don't we just borrow that query really quick. Sometimes I have a plan and it's just best I follow through with it. And we know that warehouse associate doesn't exist for the males, but we're just looking at the supervisor. And so we know we have two supervisor positions there in the males table, and we have a salary between 42,000 and 59. So the average of those two is about 50,000. So this applies some very powerful aggregation, again using SQL. Now, if we were to contrast what the warehouse associate in the females table was earning, we have we can get that data. And what if we were to just contrast the supervisor position and say, well, what was the average salary from the females table where the occupation was the supervisor? We can grab that. So there's an excellent contrast. Now, can companies, facilitate making everybody paid the same? It's an interesting question. It's kind of what this lab is about. And so if we were to, when I first did this, there was warehouse supervisor data for males. The second time around, we're not finding any of that. So that's fine. But you can see here how we can contrast what the average salary for males is who work that job and the average salary for females is for that same job, which is a little bit what this lab is about. So now that you have some query capabilities in your possession, try to discern the same pattern of discrimination you proved for Melcor using Excel. And we use discrimination, with quotes around it. Please illustrate the average salaries for the male and female. So let's take a look at stocking associate. So let's copy that out. And this you'll be doing it for your assignment. And so let's go ahead and say, well, let's replace that with the stocking associate. So that's the female stocking associate. That's fine. And then let's get the males. And so that's a real contrast. So we want to be able to capture that that difference. And we're not making a judgment upon this company. We're analyzing data on behalf of a client, and we're doing it because they've asked us to. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to sidestep the politics. Instead, we're going to go ahead and get the results. So you should be doing the same thing here for inventory retrieving associate, and you can do this along with me right now. So let's go ahead and bring back the males one, and then the females one for that job, and then we'll do it for the two others. Great. So we have a little bit of a difference between the males and the females as an average. It's very powerful. It's very fast moving. And then customer service representative. So let's copy that from our Google Doc. Let's place that into, again, we're going to query from the females first. And then we're going to do the same query on the males table. And then you're going to copy that into your document. And the females win again. And then let's do the same thing for the category manager. And again, replicating the structure of the query, category manager from males, fine. and then category manager from females, 63 versus 65. Okay, so 4 out of 4 so far. The ladies are batting 4 for 4. And so you should have this work exhibited there, and so that'll be a part of your assignment. So you should go into your queries here, and you should be copying and pasting these into a document. And then we're going to supply the counts as we did inside of the data analysis phase. And then we're going to back up the database, and that should be it. So again, this step, it's just instructing you how to copy, paste, and fill out a document inside of, so you should make so you should be in a position to copy your selection. And let's go ahead and build a file. Oh, and so we'll make an empty file for which we will copy and paste our results one for one from the Linux CLI. Right? And so, well, let's go where the guide doc takes us next. So let's expose the names of all the occupations that are inside of the corporation. And we do this by using the distinct. So what we're going to do is, we're going to, oh, that's interesting. By mousing over it, it kind of, so we want to select all occupations that are unmatched, so a set. So these are all of the professions, and these are no duplicates. So the distinct gives us an unduplicated, unique listing of all the professions. And so that will actually, that gives us the names of it, and I think this is the average salary, so you guys are going to do this also. And then we're going to count how many exist. So here we can apply the count operator, or the count clause, by saying count the number of occurrences from males where the occupation is like this, and so that's the number of senior VPs in males, and we'll do the same thing from females. And so that gives us a little output of the number of people have the occupation of this. And so we'll do that for each of the 4, and then this will take you a moment to do, and then you'll go ahead and copy this over, and what this will do is this will actually create a backup of your database, and we're going to go back. So I believe that we can quit out of mysql, and then we can copy and paste that command in, and this command is going to, mysql dump is going to take all of the contents of the database and express all the contents as a series of SQL statements so that you could actually recreate this database if you wished. So I've entered my password, and then you can see that exp.txt is there. And so what you'll be doing to turn in this project is you'll be submitting exp.txt, which contains a series of SQL statements that you will actually that you can actually recognize. You actually know enough SQL. You've done all these statements before, and it creates a record of the creation of the database, and then the insertion of hundreds of records. And you can see that's a single insert statement that inserts every record into the database. It's miles long, and for all the tables. And then you'll take output 2. So you're gonna download output 2 and exp2, and you're going to download those files to your desktop, and then you're going to upload those to Canvas, and that will prove that you've gone ahead and done the equivalent analysis for Module 3, but in a SQL database in the cloud. So you've proven yourself twice over, both in IT infrastructure and also in using relational databases to accomplish a client-facing task. So you'll do this, and then that is what you need to do there. You download that dump file. It looks like so. And so SQL is your good buddy now. And so make sure you read the document so that you get the full benefit of the exercise. You don't just get, a grade in a grade book. You actually have, the ability to speak intelligently about it. And thank you very much.